The rain had been falling since dawn, a soft, endless drizzle that turned the small town of Maple Creek into a watercolor of gray skies and glistening streets. On the corner of Pine Avenue, a flickering neon sign read Maggie's Diner, home-cooked meals since 1962. Inside, the smell of coffee and cinnamon rolls lingered like a memory that refused to fade. Maggie Turner, 72, wiped down the same countertop she'd been cleaning for over 40 years. Her hair, once auburn, was now a soft silver bun. Her hands trembled slightly, not from age, but from exhaustion. Business had been slow for months, and she'd been scraping by, often skipping her own meals so her regulars wouldn't notice how little she had left. That morning, Maggie opened the old register and sighed. Inside lay a few coins and a single $10 bill, her last money until the end of the week. Just then, the sound of a motorcycle backfiring broke through the rain. Maggie looked up through the fogged window and saw a man pushing a heavy black bike toward her diner. He looked to be in his late 30s, soaked to the bone, his leather jacket torn, and his face weary. When he stepped inside, the little bell above the door jingled weakly. "Sorry, ma'am," he said, wiping his face. "My bike gave out a mile back. Any chance I can use your phone or grab a coffee? I left my wallet in my saddlebag back on the road." Maggie looked at him, mud on his boots, grease on his hands, a tiredness in his eyes that told a story. He wasn't just another traveler. He was somebody lost in life, same as her. "Sit down, son," she said softly. "Coffee's on the house." He hesitated. "You sure? I can come back and pay." "You just warm up first," she replied with a smile that could melt the rain outside. She poured him a steaming cup and slid over a plate of apple pie, the last slice from yesterday. Then she quietly took her last $10 from the register and tucked it in an envelope, scribbling a note that read, "For gas or a meal, everyone needs a little help sometimes. Maggie." When the biker got up to leave, she handed him the envelope. He looked at her in surprise. "Ma'am, I can't take that." "You can," she said. "And one day, when you can, you pass it on." He stared at her for a long moment, his throat tightening. "You don't even know me." Maggie smiled. "I don't need to. I just know what it's like to have no one stop to help." The biker nodded, eyes glistening. He tucked the envelope into his jacket, thanked her, and stepped back into the rain. The next morning, Maggie opened the diner as usual. The rain had stopped, but the air was heavy and gray. Her cupboards were nearly empty, and the electricity bill sat unpaid on the counter. She turned on the coffee machine and whispered, "Well, Maggie, looks like it's just you and your memories again." At about 9 o'clock, she heard a sound that made her heart skip. The deep, thunderous rumble of motorcycles. At first, she thought it was just one or two. But then, it grew louder. 10 bikes. 20. 50. Maggie stepped outside, wiping her hands on her apron. Down the street, a long line of bikers rolled in like a parade of chrome and leather, engines growling in unison. Townsfolk peeked from shop windows as the convoy pulled up in front of Maggie's diner. The leader dismounted. It was the same biker from yesterday. His name, as she soon learned, was Jake Morrison, a veteran and president of a local riding group called the Steel Brotherhood. Jake walked up to Maggie with a grin that could light up the gray morning. In his hand, he held the same envelope she'd given him, but now it was stuffed thick with bills. "Ma'am," he said, voice trembling with emotion. "You gave me your last $10 yesterday, didn't you?" Maggie chuckled shyly. "Wasn't much. You looked like you needed it more." Jake turned around to face the group of riders. "You all hear that?" he called. "This woman right here gave her last $10 to help a stranger. Didn't know me. Didn't ask for anything. Just kindness." The bikers murmured among themselves. One by one, they began removing their helmets and stepping forward. Jake continued, "We've all had our share of hard times, combat vets, single dads, ex-mechanics, men and women who've seen the rough side of life. But today, we came to show what your kindness started." He motioned to a pickup truck parked behind them. Its bed was filled with groceries, tools, paint cans, and a brand new diner sign that read, "Maggie's Place, where kindness is served daily." Maggie gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. "Oh, my, what is all this?" Jake smiled. "You said to pass it on. We're doing just that." The bikers began unloading supplies, fresh produce, boxes of meat, coffee beans, sugar, flour. One of them handed her a thick white envelope. Inside was over $12,000 in donations they'd collected overnight through their online community. "This town's got enough tough days," Jake said softly. "We figured it was time somebody had a good one." The turning point. For the first time in months, Maggie cried, not out of sadness, but disbelief. She hugged Jake like a son she'd lost somewhere along life's highway. The townsfolk, seeing the commotion, began gathering around. Someone started clapping, then another, until the whole street echoed with applause. One of the younger bikers grinned, "Ma'am, we also fixed your roof this morning. Hope you don't mind, we got some good carpenters among us." Maggie laughed through tears. "You fixed my roof?" Jake nodded. "And the coffee machine, too. We weren't leaving until your place was ready for a fresh start." She couldn't speak. The same diner that had nearly closed down yesterday was now alive again, buzzing with people, laughter, and the scent of new beginnings. Weeks later, Maggie's Place became more than just a diner. It turned into a local legend, a spot where bikers, truckers, and townsfolk gathered, not for fancy meals, but for the feeling of family. Maggie's story spread across social media, then local news, then national headlines. Elderly woman gives her last $10 to a biker, what happened next will restore your faith in humanity. Reporters came. Donations poured in. But Maggie always said the same thing. "I didn't give him money. I gave him hope. And somehow, it came back to me multiplied." The final twist. Months later, on a sunny morning, Maggie was setting out fresh pies when Jake returned, this time alone. He sat quietly at the counter, smiling as she poured him coffee. "Business looks good," he said. "Better than I ever dreamed," Maggie replied. Jake reached into his jacket and pulled out a small framed photo. It was a picture of a young woman holding a baby. "My wife and daughter," he said softly. "They passed away 3 years ago. That night you helped me, I was riding out to, well, I didn't plan on coming back. I'd lost everything." Maggie froze, eyes welling up. "Oh, Jake." He smiled faintly. "But you gave me a reason to turn around. You reminded me there's still good people left. You didn't just save me a meal, you saved my life." Tears streamed down her face. "You don't owe me anything, Jake." He shook his head. "You're wrong, ma'am. I owe you everything." The uplifting ending. Every year after that, on the anniversary of that rainy morning, dozens, sometimes hundreds, of bikers would ride back into Maple Creek. They'd line the street, engines roaring like thunder, and share free meals with strangers. A sign outside the diner read, "No one leaves Maggie's hungry, body or soul." And Maggie, now with a sparkle in her eyes that even time couldn't dim, would say to anyone who asked how it all began, "It started with $10 and a little faith." Turns out, kindness doesn't run out, it only multiplies. Final message. In a world that often feels cold and divided, Maggie's story reminded everyone of one simple truth. You never know how far a small act of kindness can travel. Sometimes, it takes just one gentle heart to change 50 roaring engines, and maybe, a few hundred more hearts along the way.